Nope.
Good morning and welcome to Unlocking Freedom in Nature and Art. Good morning, Lori, and good morning, Christine.
Good morning.
Today we're diving into a soulful conversation with artist and creative Christine Seeholzer. Is that how you say
Correct.
it, Christine? That's
Yes.
awesome. And I love her work. I checked out her website and it's just like, oh, so relaxing and so beautiful. And we can't wait to hear more from her. So we're
Well, and I
very
want
happy
to
to have you.
thank Yuli for introducing us. She's the one who gave me the
Oh, that's
recommendation.
right.
You got to meet Christine. And we know Yuli, she was a wonderful guest and she participates a lot in our Power of Art Nature. She's always sharing so many ocean view videos, right? That inspiration. She's all about the sound. So I'm excited to have you, Christine. And we're excited to hear your story, your journey, what's led you to here. So, and Christine, for our guests, can you tell them where you're from and a little bit about you?
Sure. So I'm from Toledo, Ohio, but I'm coming live from Avon Lake, which is in the Cleveland, Ohio area. And I also wanted to give a shout out to Yuli. So I met her while I was exhibiting with her at a local gallery here called Creative Space Avon, which is a neighboring city. So I really have enjoyed networking with other artists along the way and learning a lot from them and being supporting each other. So that's been a great part of the journey. But my art journey started when I was sick with pneumonia and hospitalized when I was 6. And then I was not given the option to go to the playroom at the hospital because my dad thought I was at the hospital to not get more sick. So he kept me in the room, and the nice, lovely nurses brought me watercolor, and I painted most of the time I was laid up in the hospital. So that was my first real experience with art helping me out.
And it's amazing how it does help because it takes your mind off of your sickness when you're creating, or when you're on a nature hike or whatever. It helps you to forget that you're going through that.
It's true. Yes. And speaking of hiking, I have a husband who loves hiking. So we've been on a lot of hikes with our family. And I'm sure that has been an inspiration for the connection with nature that I've enjoyed in my artwork. So I have to give a shout out to him for taking me on adventures. And I do love the Cleveland area because we have beautiful metro parks that are just available for us to peruse. And it's nice to have the water by us. We can really just at the drop of a hat go experience the water, which is also pretty healing as well.
Oh yeah, I find the healing is, and as Lori can attest, I have waterfalls and ponds and stuff in my yard, front and back, because I love the sound of it, of crashing. And I know Lori's like me, we're like fish. We love the
Yeah.
water. So when I go on hikes, some people just want to go see the view. I like to go where there's an alpine lake or a waterfall or hike along a stream. That's what I enjoy.
So
Christine,
what is
I'm very curious about your story going back to that hospital, like you were a little kid or already a teenager, and did you know that you had that skill or talent, or it was a moment where you discovered you had that yourself?
So I didn't really discover it as a talent until I was in junior high because I had a lot of friends who were really creative and great with drawing out of their head. And I've always been better at using a visual reference. So I just thought that's not really a skill. That's just, I have to look at something. But then I knew a lot of people that could just spontaneously draw. So I had a best friend growing up who loved drawing, and she taught me how to draw in a cartoon style. And from her head, like she would give me little tutorials when we would hang out, and I thought that was amazing. But and when I was in junior high, I took one of the drawing foundations classes that you have to take before you can take more advanced art classes. And I discovered when I was doing the still life drawings that I could shade, and I knew how to do some of that just kind of naturally. And it actually got me in trouble because the art teacher that I had thought I plagiarized in my sketchbook because I kind of had an art awakening and realized I could do it. So I was drawing things from different angles and blown up and smaller and kind of over analyzing everything around me through my sketchbook. So she thought I was using a light table at the house, which is cute, but that's not what happened. So,
I love how you say that those things that you didn't think you had the skill or the ability or the talent because you had to look at something. That's where I'm at right now, and I'm very happy and pleased with myself. Like I can look at something and finally sketch it with a little bit more confidence. Um, and I also tried this last weekend with my grandchildren. I'm here visiting my grandchildren. I tried doing something from my imagination until I had to look up something to kind of finish and complete the idea on the picture. But I love the fact that I hope you still think, even though, like, how are you doing? Like, are you getting better at seeing it in your head first, visualizing it?
yes. So it's a skill that you can hone, right? So I worked with a little girl, by little girl, I mean, she's going into eighth grade, I think. Over the summer, we've been doing private lessons together, and she is able to sketch the things that she's familiar with out of her head. But then she was saying, how do you tell what colors to use, for example, when you're going to shade something if she was trying to finish a drawing? And I said, you have to study it so that you can get really good at visualizing it in your head. So it kind of reminds me of the Renaissance artists, how they would go out and study nature and take their sketchbooks out, and they would just fill their sketchbooks with everything they could find so that then they have that reference back in the studio and in their mind to look back on and get a real good feel for it. So,
And I want to throw this out there. There is nothing wrong with looking at a picture or studying your subject because you actually need to. Otherwise, you'll find every single tree you do is the exact same. So, and look at every single tree is different. So it is good to go and study a tree or take a photo or the plein air art where you're outside and you're sketching and stuff. So there is nothing wrong with it at all because a lot of great artists I know, including myself, I use photographs a lot. I combine. I'll visualize what I want to see, but it doesn't mean I don't go and like grab this photo I took of a tree a long time ago, or this waterfall, or this rock, or this stream, or this bush, or this flower. Or like when I'm creating my flowers for my 3D art, I have a 3D flower in front of me. I actually have a real flower that I take apart because I want to see how all the parts are and then I put it back together in my we use in my different resins and epoxies and stuff. So there's a lot to it. So, but yeah, there's no because every artist is a little bit different. And it's like you said, what I found when I was teaching art, like especially in large group settings, it's just more getting that creativity out of them because everybody has talents and gifts. It's just a matter of finding them and just having fun because we all do it a little bit different. And it's like, okay, it's like Christine, you might picture as a watercolor, and and then Lori, you might picture it as sketching with pencil or some other kind of paint. And I'll look at it and like, oh, I think I'll do it 3D. Or, it's there's like so many different ways that we can create something. So, but yeah, there is never ever anything wrong. I encourage you, especially when you're first learning, to have that object in front of you or a photograph because that's
Yeah.
how you're studying it and that's how you're learning how to do it. It's kind of like you're going to find more people. Some people draw people better and some people draw trees better. It all depends on what they've been studying more.
And now that you
I
mentioned that
agree.
in olden days, people will sketch people not from their memory, but people posing, right? And observing and sketching and the strokes of the pencil or the paint needed to be according to what they saw and their perception. So that's great. And for those, I always every chance I can, Tammy, I need to highlight, and Christine, just FYI. what you see behind Tammy, she created it. That's what she means with her 3D art. So it's super amazing. And yes, it
Thank
takes, I'm
you.
sure, Tammy observing nature for her to be able to create that and bring it to fruition. So it's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, and it was from several pictures created in my mind, but as you see, it's like I look at different because there's so many different mountain ranges, mountain tops, you know. So, and that's how you get each piece you do to be a little bit different. Because if you only do from your imagination, a lot of times you'll start looking at them and you'll start seeing they look the same, you know. So unless that's what you're looking for, it doesn't mean and at the same time you're finding your own style when you're drawing and painting, and that's what you're going for, is to find your own style. Because like Christine, she has her own unique style, kind of like Yuli has her own style, and I love it when you look at their websites and you see that.
So, Christine, speaking of your style, so then you had an artistic awakening. So, when did the boom happen? Like, you're like, I can do this. I can do this for fun. I can do this to bless others with my gift and teach
or
others. What happened?
or did something happen that said, hey, I'm going this way?
So my dad wanted me to be a doctor, and that did not happen. But I was not really allowed to explore a lot of art classes in high school. So I took photography, which I really enjoyed. And my stepmom had given me the opportunity to take figure drawing classes at the Toledo Art Museum, which I love. So I had some more kind of experience there. And then my dad wanted me to take full time classes my senior year at the University of Toledo. It happens that the University of Toledo partners with the Toledo Museum of Art, and all of the classes they take place right alongside the museum, which is awesome. So I really enjoyed being in that environment. And I did some internship work after that, working with community programming, which I love working in communities. Currently, I do summer classes within my community, and I really enjoy that. It's a good way to connect with everyone. But I didn't get serious about art until my I did the Bachelor of Fine Arts and at Bowling Green State University, and I loved learning from different kinds of professors. I thought I would want to open a gallery because I always enjoyed the people side of art and meeting people and learning about new artists and different techniques and getting inspired by each other. And then I took a detour into the education world and I became an art teacher. But I didn't get to become an art teacher until much later because at the time there was a little recession happening for art teachers. So, in the meanwhile, I learned special education, which has really served me very well too. So, that was a unique part of my journey.
Oh yeah, that definitely is. So
So here we go again. There's opposition, right? Or adversity or a naysayer, which in this, I mean, we love them. We love our parents, but sometimes they have their own ideas of what is it that we should do, right? What would you say to our audience? Someone that's on the edge, on the fence of doing something, but they have naysayers around them.
Well, I like to spend a lot of time alone because then I can hear my own voice. But I can also hear the voice of God. So that's part of my process is being able to tell the difference because we internalize so many of the voices that are around us that it's hard to make a real decision that's authentic to ourselves unless we know that it's coming from ourselves and from, a higher power that has our best interest at heart and knows where we're going and knows how our life will unfold before it happens. So I really recommend having a practice where you spend some quality time with yourself and know yourself the best because my dad was coming from a great place. He knew that I was empowered. He knew that I wanted to take care of myself. He knew that that was one way that I could do that for sure, that I would be able to take care of myself as a doctor. So I think that, and I love people, working with people. I love researching, and I have a scientific side to me where I'm working diagnostically as a special educator too. So he wasn't wrong exactly in his assessment, but to get to the most authentic version of ourselves, we just have to listen to ourselves.
I
Well, and
love it. I love it, Christine. Thank you for
I
sharing
do
that.
too. And it's kind of, and Lori and I talk about this in both of our books, is the fact that you have to find your values. You have to find out what it is that you like, you enjoy, and your talents and put them to use. A lot of times, what I see is parents living through their kids and thinking that they know best, but they're not always taking the time to find what they like, what they enjoy, besides the quality. And that's what I hear from teenagers. A lot of times it's like, but they're not listening to me. I tell them this is what I'm interested in or I enjoy. And as parents, we're always trying our best. None of us are perfect, right? But at the same time, it's like we need to listen and see and just kind of watch and ask the kids, ask them questions to get them thinking like, what are their talents? What do they enjoy? What do they value? Where do they want to live when they grow up? Where do they see themselves? Do they like to travel a lot? Do they like to stay in one spot? Do they like working for somebody else? Or do they want to work for themselves? There's like so many questions out there. So, and I am glad because I heard so many people tell me that to get a job, you know, get a real job, or why are you doing your art and stuff? So I have been there. I've heard so many naysayers, but I'm one of those. I've done a lot of different things just to try to find what I really liked, a lot of part-time jobs, because when you work part-time at something or volunteer, you find out if you like that or not, or
But
you might.
I love your answer, Christine, because you also said that your father had great intentions, and
Oh
he was
yeah.
probably tapping into that scientific side to you, and then he wanted the best for you, and then that in his mind was that. I just love that you want to demonstrate and honor him, but I love how you also said that listening to your voice and God's voice is super important. And you started saying that by saying that you like to spend time by yourself, which is like my area, my passion, which is meditating and journaling. And I don't know that you did journaling, but listening to your own voice is very important. And having that seal of approval from the divine, from God, Heavenly Father, it is so, so important. And maybe at the time you didn't even know that you loved art so much, and that's what your dad didn't even know, and that's what you worked out of yourself, like with that work of being by yourself. And that is what I want to tell our viewers. And I have here Pam and Heather Angel Messi or Messi, and then I have um Sue Jimenez. Sue Jimenez is saying that she's from Ohio, in
I see.
Toledo,
Hi
Ohio.
everyone.
Represent.
Yay! So I'm very excited. Although all of these wonderful women are here with us, listening and learning. And if you can take away from this episode that listening to our own voice, be authentic to ourselves unapologetically, and then having that seal of approval is what I call it. When Heavenly Father or when God tells us, yeah, that's what I've been trying to tell you all along, or that's your purpose here on earth. It's very, very beautiful. And it might change through different stages and phases of our lives, right? So you never know where your voice is going to tell you need to go in the future. And speaking of God, you say, or your website, your amazing website says that your work is very spiritual. Can you tell us about that, how you use spirituality to be inspired with your art?
Yes. So I would say that when it's tied in with nature, I get a lot of three-dimensional, I guess you would call it codes in nature that seem to have symbolic meaning. And it's usually animals and most of the time birds. So I do have one piece that has a blue jay because blue jays have had some significance. But I also dream like that, where I'll have dreams about specific animals. And then later I look up what it means and it kind of make sense and symbology. So I use symbols in my artwork, and I also use references to spiritual themes like angels or transformation or being connected together. So I have a painting that has the Fibonacci sequence interposed on top of a woman in a forest. And it's kind of the trying to show the idea of being feeling connected to everything while you're out in nature or you're experiencing something like that firsthand.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And so do you paint on site or after you go explore nature, you come back and then
So
you
I like to do kind of what Tammy does, where I'm sourcing images, and I think of it almost as channeling. So when I'm painting, I feel like I'm meditating or channeling information, and it's kind of organizing itself in the composition in the back of my mind. And I will remember things that I have that I want to include, or I think of it as almost piecing together a story, like a visual storytelling kind of a practice. So I like to do a lot of collage digitally. Kind of, it's not unlike what Yuli will do with her work when it comes to transposing images and kind of using them to tell a story. So that's my method. And then I like to use a lot of hands-on tactile methods with my art. Although I like photography, I prefer to paint because I like it kind of reminds me of what Tammy was saying too. As I was growing up, my dad he's still very good with his hands and did a lot of kind of refinishing or building from scratch things tactily with his hands. And so I just really enjoy that as well. And I use a lot of physical processes where I can feel it's probably grounding to feel it, under my fingers as I'm creating.
Oh, yeah. And one of the things that I find, and now this is a question for you, try to put in question form here, is the fact that when I'm working on a piece, even for a client, because I listen to their stories when I do and look at what their decor and everything is and their colors and stuff. I visualize it. And I visualize like three different scenes that would work in there for them, even though I kind of basically know which one they're going to choose, but just to show that there are options. But I visualize if I don't visualize it, I know I'm not getting the job or I'm not going to do it. And so I have to visualize because when I visualize, to me, that's a sign from God saying, giving me a clear mind, a clear view of what it's supposed to look like. And then what I do is go and find sometimes the different pieces and pictures to put it together when I'm drawing, to even make it more clear. But it's like I have this clear view in my mind. Is that you as well?
Yeah, I would say that as well, especially for really specific pieces. So that one that I know were kind of divinely inspired. So that one with the Fibonacci, for sure, I saw that in my mind before I created it. And then I painted my patron saint from when I was confirmed, Saint Maria Goretti. I painted her story of the dream that Alessandro had while he was in prison of her. So after that, I had kind of meditated and looked for what's the next piece that I should be painting, with this themes of like the saints and everything. And I had a visualization of a little girl in braids twirling around, and she looked kind of, I don't know, native of some kind. I don't know what her background was, but then I started researching and I found out that there is a little girl from history around the same time period that isn't yet a saint, but she is going through the process to become a saint. Her name is Laura Vicuña, and her story is pretty inspiring because she wanted to give up everything for her mother and take care of her mother and bring her mother closer and everything. So that was it was an inspiring thing, and it was nice to learn something new from a vision like that. And then I ended up doing a piece with them together, the mother and the little girl.
How
that's so
sweet.
cool. That is so cool. So I see also you offer like therapeutic, like art life coaching using art for self-awareness. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, so that's unfolding, but I've always wanted to help people learn how to better ground themselves, just very simple things like how to meditate using art, how to ground yourself using art, how to have some idea of the things, like you said, to identify your values or just to help grow through the process because you learn so much about yourself. So I wouldn't say I have a lot of details about it yet. It's just a working process that I'm trying to explore through my business as well.
And have there been like a massive or a breakthrough change of somebody that you have taught, a child or somebody that's been an amazing experience?
I mean, I really just, through my teaching experiences, I had the gift when I worked at St. Paul Westlake for 5 years part-time. I really just had the gift of watching kids grow. And I had a lot of kids say that they grew in confidence through art making. I had a student this year, I just overheard her talking. It was from my senior class, where she was saying when she first started taking my classes, she was kind of nervous that she was going to do something wrong. And then she became more confident in making decisions and things like that. So, like, I don't think it has to be a major breakthrough just to help you make a little change. A little change can become a big change.
So
You've
true, so
helped
true.
many.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you know what? I love I love it when schools offer the arts, whether it's music or it's pottery or whatever type of art, photography, wood shop, because it teaches different skills in a creativeness way, right? It brings out the creative skills.
Yes, I think that my goal as an art teacher within the schools was never to create, well, maybe not never. When we had a big for one class, we had a class that was based on people that really wanted to explore what it was like to be a working artist. So we did work hard on what the product would look like. But in general, I just wanted to give everyone tools to learn how to express themselves creatively. So whether that was more three-dimensional, like your process, or two-dimensional, or just sourcing images, tracing something, it didn't really matter as long as it gave them a vehicle for expression.
Well, and you can learn a lot from a person's drawing about them, and they don't even realize it. Because I'd go in and I'd teach lessons like to first, second, and third grade a lot, help the teachers out because they had no arts classes, right? So I'd go in there and I was teaching a second grade class. This was second grade, and the kid mirrored exactly everything. And then the teacher's like, I'm like, you realize he just mirrored it. And then she was like, "Oh, no wonder why he's been mirroring all of his alphabet, the numbers, and was having a hard time because he was dyslexic, and he'd gone through several teachers and they hadn't noticed. I think that's why it's so important to even have kids draw at a young age. I did art lessons from 4 up because I feel that they can color and they can paint and you can just get them going.
Agree. And I think it's important. We were kind of talking about how it's valid to work from a photo source or however you begin, it's all valid. And so I think that a lot of people, the older we get, the less we're interested in experimenting and trying new things. But my grandfather, when he was my grandmother, his wife had passed away before him, and he was lonely and he wanted to do something to fill his time. And he decided to take landscape painting classes, and he discovered that he had this great talent, in his 70s for that, and it really helped him. And so it's never too late to try something new, and it doesn't have to start off big. It can be something little, so I would encourage everybody to just be open to different things, whether it's art or music or whatever, dance, anything.
Well, and
And
that's just
Christine, can I do this? Tell me very quick.
Oh,
Share.
go ahead. I was just going to say it just shows that she has artistic talents in her family, and it no matter if it's creating outside or inside.
Yay, I just love this. I was trying to find the Blue Jay. I guess it's in a different collection.
Which one
But
are you looking for?
the Blue Jay, but these are
Oh,
acrylic,
oh, oh.
right?
Most of them are acrylic. Some of them have water-based oil on top, but the Blue Jay is going to be within the Rise collection, and I think that that's
Okay.
under transformation at the top menu because I wrote a book, which is a journal for writing down your thoughts and having positive affirmations. So the art that's connected with that is within that menu where it says transformation.
That's awesome. That's beautiful. So creative. So looking at where you were at or when you started years ago and looking at your work now, how do you compare? Is it just different styles, or do you see the process in the journey improving, or is just like, hey, that's what I drew in the past and this is where I'm at now, or do you find some kind of progress?
I see progress, but I think it's like anything else where I've been trying lately to paint almost every day, even with a lot going on with my kids and everyone's getting ready to go back to school and all of that. But it really helps the fluidity and the trajectory of your work if you just are always doing it and coming back to it because once you start something, you kind of want to finish it and it flows a little bit easier, especially if you get into the practice that works for you, whatever that looks like. I like listening to music, but everyone's is different. So
No,
I would
listening to
say,
music, I totally get if I can't open a window and hear the birds sing, or a lot of times I'll do art outside, just because I love having the birds and butterflies and everything right there and the squirrels. But otherwise, yeah, listening to music, or even peace and quiet is better than listening to the news because I don't feel inspired when there's like a news station or something on.
no, I would say I also do not.
Well, you want that positivity, and I love it that you're
Right.
all about positive as well, because that is one of our things too, right, Lori? Inhale positivity, exhale possibilities.
I like that. It's a great affirmation.
It is. Quick question here. So when did you so now you're doing this full time, is that correct? And if
Well,
so,
I
when
guess
did you start?
it depends on how you identify as full time, but I like to think that I piece my life together in little pockets, kind of like what you were talking about with part-time jobs. So during the school year, I teach 3 days a week at the school, and then at Mary Queen of Peace in by the zoo here in Cleveland. And I try to paint on my days off and whenever I can. And then I try to be involved within teaching outside of that, like private lessons or community programming in the summer. I've been doing that pretty steadily for the Avon Lake Parks and Rec. And it basically pieces together that way where I dedicate the 2 days that I'm not teaching to my business. And then the other days are, I try to be compartmentalized, be here now kind of mantra.
Well,
Like
besides
I'm
you're a mom, she has
yes,
3 kids,
yes.
married, so you're wearing all these hats because you're probably the cook, you're the nurse. I mean, so many women, we take for granted what we do. But we're always, but a quote reminded me this last week was, it's like the husband's, or this husband and wife went into this therapist, I should say, little short story. And the husband's like, well, I don't understand why she thinks she's always so tired. I'm the one who works full time. And, but then they started naming everything a mom or a wife does all day long till late at night and looking at what you're doing. No, you're doing it full time too. So you're doing your art. You're doing what you love. And that is full time. So
Yes, and they say like art is living, living is art, something like that. And I have an Italian American background, so that's kind of part of the culture is that you want to have an artful life. You like making things beautiful, whether it's food or whatever it is.
This is wonderful. So, what advice do you give to someone watching, listening, that feels drawn to create or do you like your work, spiritual work, but then they don't think they're either talented enough or their spirituality is not deep enough? What is your advice to them?
I think starting is the most important thing. So, doing something that you already feel comfortable with doing to begin. And then, once you feel comfortable doing that, if you find that your motivation is having time with friends, taking a class together, or if you find that your motivation is having time to yourself, then exploring maybe a museum or finding something, inspiration within something else that gives you the idea to spur into your own work.
Sound
That is great
advice.
advice. Great advice.
And I know I do, and Lori knows that I do this a lot. I'll go on hikes or different things to help me get inspired, Or a lot of times, like I tell her, it's like, just draw something up, do something, and then I'll go from there. Because sometimes other people's ideas will give you that inspiration. Other times they won't, but other times they will. And Lori's great at inspiring me to come up with different ideas. So thank you,
Thank
Lori.
you.
Well, you're more creative than you realize. And then it's like it's kind of like that conversation where you start talking and then it's like all of a sudden those ideas start popping up. And
Yeah,
that's
there's
how
different,
it is.
definitely different ways to be creative, and I have some, but I will continue developing my artistic on paper skill,
Well,
and I'm
and
pursuing it.
and it's like I don't know if you, Christine, if you know who Julie Kramer Cole is or Bev Doolittle, if you've heard of them, they're the ones that paint the hidden elements or hidden eagles and different things in their paintings. And so I did a study. And the way I do a study, because I've never taken an art class. When was in high school, it was pottery. And I've done sandblasting and leaded glass, I guess. So I have taken three, but I study a lot. And so what I did is I took a painting of Julie Kramer's Coles to figure out how they came up with the hidden animals and birds and different things in their scenes. And it was quite interesting because then I started seeing animals in everything and birds. It's like when you do something like that, then it's like even that was copied and I can never sell it because it's a copyright infringement. But now I know how to create it myself.
Yes, and actually, if you were in a college art class or graduate level, a lot of them do that. Ateliers are all about copying other masters to learn, so it's pretty valid for your research method.
Well, it is, isn't it? Because it's a great way to learn, and or like practicing colors. And it's like when I did that piece, I used no white. Yeah, it was a snow scene. And it looks like I used white, but I did not use any solid white at all in the piece.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's a method to your madness, huh?
There always is. So
So I appreciate Pam. Pam says, Christine, that the saying is do what you love and live where your soul is at peace. Maybe that's the one that you were referring, the saying, the expression. Thank you, Pam. And we've loved having you, Christine, and I'm sure I can see Tammy's like loving it here because you're talking your language. And
right.
I want to know what, like, as we finish, because time goes by so fast when we're having fun, I want to know, like, what is it at the end of this episode? What is the takeaway that you want for the viewers, or even an invitation to reflect, to create, or to slow down and engage with art? And I know you already said, visiting a museum or being in solitude and all that, but is there anything else, like some words or an invitation? Like if you were in your bathroom giving yourself a speech in front of the mirror, like to a motivational talk or something, what would you tell our audience?
I guess I would say to explore. Just generally, if there was a mantra, I would say is to explore and not stop exploring because you never know what you're going to find, who you're going to find, and what you will discover about yourself and the world.
Love it.
That is short and sweet and amazing, like deep enough, right? So our three pillars for our work is discover, experience, and transform. So you said explore, like, and then That's amazing. Whether that's nature, whether that's in the museums, whether that's in solitude with yourself, you need to explore. And also along with that, that will, I think, by default motivate you to take some action. If you're wanting to do something and you never take the action, then you're always going to wonder, I should have, could have, right? Live with those regrets. And for me, it's been like with art, it's been like doing those first brushstrokes or sketches that look horrible, but guess what? This is why there's another canvas, there's another piece of paper, or there's even erasers. And it's been so fun and self-fulfilling, very, very fulfilling. And along with Christine, I encourage you, our audience, to explore, do something new, different, get out of your comfort zone, because out of your comfort zone, you might find what you're looking for. So.
Yeah, and I love the fact that it's like what Christine just said. Don't just talk about it, actually do some, take action, explore, and watercolors or color crayons, pencils, they don't cost that much. You can use any kind of when I was 12, I had an artist friend. He used to draw Native Americans all the time, and he was Native American, but he drew them on grocery bags, the brown grocery bags, that you could get like at Trader Joe's. And he just fold them inside out and he'd draw a picture on it. And sometimes he would just use charcoal or a pencil and it was incredible. His art was, he was a great artist and he just did it for fun, but it just shows how you can do things. And a lot of times even if you have kids, let them build sand castles and different things because that's creating things, or take leaves or pine cones and create things with those. So you can have so much fun just exploring.
Being resourceful
It
because
is.
what you describe, the brown bags, he used what he had. And I cannot think in the United States of America or any other country who are watching, I cannot believe that there's not a piece of pencil or a pen or a crayon. And like you said, even charcoal. If there's someone out there that is listening, if they have technology to listen to it to us, hopefully I pray that they have a piece of crayon, pencil, or pen or charcoal so they can start taking
Also,
action.
Andy Goldsworthy is a famous artist who worked in nature with natural materials. So that's a really easy way that kids know to do. You go to the beach and draw on sand or arrange, beautiful flower petals in a mandala shape. You have a lot of materials at your disposal that are just out in nature.
You do. Just even, clipping some wildflowers. It's amazing what you can create in a vase that kids can. When you take that time, whether it's for kids or for you, when you just start experimenting like that, it's so much fun. It's like a lot of times I just use herbs for my flower arrangements. I used dill the other day and it's so pretty and it smells good, or if you use mint, because mint actually helps detract those mosquitoes, So there's all those little things that people don't realize that's around you that you can use to create. So,
So
so
thank
it's
you,
kind of
Pam. Pam saying that this has been a great talk. Olivia Smith is also here with us. Hello, Olivia.
And
And we
she's the
appreciate,
queen of grounding, right?
yes, yes, that's exploring in nature, barefoot, is what Olivia would say. So I really love, like I said at the beginning, where we're gonna have a soulful conversation, and I think we did because this conversation with Christine has helped us understand that we need to slow down, we need to reflect, we need to explore inside of us, right? So that we can reach to the divine and understand where is it that we want to go. It doesn't have to even be anything artistic and nothing related to art. But what is your purpose? How are you going to step up to it by taking action? And we love having you, Christine. Thank you so much for your example. I love your feel of being very calm, very grounded, like you've been saying a lot. That seems like very, very important to you, and you exude that. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you
Oh,
for
and when
having
you're
me.
talking about being calm, Lori, I'm going to throw this out there because this week I kind of experienced. So we had some friends over and they have little kids that were very rambunctious. And I'm like, you need to be calm. And you need to be quiet when you're out in nature, because when you do that, you're going to see so much more. And as you know, you guys have seen some of those posts of my little chipmunk friends, right? And I've had the chipmunks, sit right next to me, right on my, almost on my lap. I went down the other day and the little chipmunk was cuddled in my blanket, sleeping. It was so cute. And I was like, no, you can't sleep there because you might get eaten, you need to hide. But it's amazing what you see. And when you're calm, the animals around you will notice. It's like the mama turkeys brought their babies up to me today when I was down, and I don't feed the turkeys, but they come in and they're just like, they know that I'm not there to harm them. It's like, of course, I would not do that with a grizzly bear, and you stay away from moose and things like that. But it's amazing the animals and birds, like Christine said, that will come in and they'll just be like hands, arm reach out. Um, and you'll just notice so much more. Listen to their sounds, and you'll start recognizing their sounds, even in nature, knowing that they're near, or the warning sounds that something's else is in the forest. Um, so listen to your heart, and take those photos, take a sketch pad, draw, learn to be creative. So, and Christine, I thank you so much for being here. It's been our honor to get to know you more. And we're so happy that you're part of our group now. And we want to thank each person that's been here watching: Pam, Heather, Olivia, Suzanne. Thank you so much. And thanks for those that are going to be watching later. And be sure to check out our website, unlockingfreedominnature.com, for updates on different events and different things that are coming up. We have different adventures and different things always going on. If there's something that you would like to see, hear, or learn more about, tips or anything, please just message us and say, hey, this would be a great idea. Can you do this? Or would you put this on? Or if you have a guest like Yuli did, inviting Christine, we loved it. We loved having her. So any last words, Christine?
So the tagline of my business is look for the divine, and that would, I guess, be the thing I would leave you with is when you're out, look for all of the ways that you're blessed and all of the things that have been put in your life to help you along your journey.
That's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody, and have a wonderful week.
Bye-bye.